I'm gonna make a motion, we come out of executive session at 7:58 with no action taken.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, moving on now to discuss review of revised budget. As of 3/5/14, budget board recommendations date.
Yes, I just wanted to keep you apprised of where we were with the budget board. As you can see, the new cover sheet has actuals included in there. Page 2, I need to make that second column wider, and that's why you see just a bunch of pound signs. So the actuals for 2012, I've got to expand that. I'll send that off. There have been no major changes in revenue yet. I'm just going to go through and let you know where the budget board is at in case you're interested. Budget board recommended enthusiastically the $12,893 for the Board of Selectmen. They said if we don't fund the Board of Selectmen, they probably won't be very happy with us. Budget board recommended $77.35 for the planning board, which was the same as proposed. Budget board recommended $666 for the Board of Appeals after much consideration as to whether or not that could be $665 or $667. Some people didn't like that number.
Yeah, I saw that number. I think, well, that's not a good number.
Professional services, budget board recommended $39,798, which is what I proposed. Administration, the same, $294,002. Budget board recommended $85,130 for town hall, $218,440 for planner, planner, code enforcement officer, and assessor. Fire department was recommended at $244,892, which was what was requested from the chief. Civil services, $39,750. That has changed. It was $39,950. We have never expended the civil emergency preparedness line. We pay Reynolds overtime out of his regular fire department budget to go to those meetings and any items that are purchased for civil emergency preparedness. It's not necessary to have a separate line item. The county says that it's not a requirement. Cemeteries remain the same. Go ahead.
So that's the $200 difference?
That is the $200 difference, would be that note number 4, we've taken out the $200. Cemeteries have stayed the same. There was some discussion, and I have to get some numbers back to Sean Hayes about the possibility of the American Legion getting involved. Go ahead.
I gotta go back.
Okay, back up.
Back to that budget for the civil service article.
Yes.
So the budget board recommended $39,950. You're saying that they've changed it now to $39,750?
Nope. Oh, nope. I'm sorry, I did that backwards. So the budget board recommends $39,750.
Okay.
It was initially at $39,950.
All right.
Apologize, I've got to put that back because the initial proposal and the budget belongs to the Board of Selectmen. And so if the board agrees on the warrant article, the higher number has to be reflected in the actual spreadsheet because people can't vote to increase the amounts at town meeting. So I will fix that, put that back.
But can't the selectmen still only also recommend the $39,750?
They most certainly can.
Okay.
Let's see, the Eastern Trail, you'll see I did it right that time. Okay, social services, $15,800. Budget board recommended that. The budget board recommended $5,000 for the Eastern Trail dues, and then they recommended $2,250 for Eastern Trail maintenance as opposed to the $1,500 that was proposed. Go ahead, Dan.
Back up a little bit.
Okay.
The 15,800.
Yep.
So that's the, what did we do last year? Last year we did the same thing, right?
Same thing, yes.
So all of these, their amounts are the same thing that they asked us last year?
No, there have been some rearranging of what was asked for by Wendy. Wendy has always done the social services requests. I believe the Red Cross was removed this year and there was an additional amount given to visiting nurses. So this year it would be York County Community Action at $1,600, counseling services $550. Some of those amounts were shifted, and I believe Red Cross was the only one that was eliminated from that. In the past, they haven't requested the monies that were appropriated to them.
So which one of those are we recommended we give more money to this year than we did last year?
That was the visiting nurses at $1,150.
How much was that last year?
I believe that was $200, I believe it was $950 last year. But let me verify that, Dan, and I'll send that email to the whole board tomorrow. And as stated, 5,000 for ETA dues, and then 2,250 is what the budget board is going to recommend for the Eastern Trail. Public Works.
Caroline?
Oh, go ahead.
What's the $750 increase?
There was just the Roger every year will tell you that it's going to get more and more expensive to maintain that trail. Melanie and some of the members would like to see, this year's funds were already completely expended because there were a bunch of blowdowns last year and some mowing on the trail. There was some siltation problems that we had to take care of, so they were just asking for a little bit more money to maybe get 1 or 2 more mowings in there to keep the grass back a little better. And in the event that there's any surface issues that like we had last year, they figured that increasing that by 750 was prudent.
Because otherwise it comes out of Roger's budget.
Yeah.
And this way, they're hoping that they would get a better handle on just what it does cost, just for the Eastern Trail.
And the year before last, we expended the 1,500, I think it was 1,497, and then this year, we're at, I believe, 1,499 or something, we're right there. So if there's any blowdowns or any trees or anything that happened this year, that's gonna come out of Roger's budget, or it won't get done. There was discussion at the budget board about forming a committee of volunteers to work on the Eastern Trail. I've heard that since I've been here, and I know that it's been discussed since the trail was put in, so I'm not sure. You know, I told Melanie I'd be more than happy to bring my lawnmower down here and mow the side of the trails if you guys are looking for volunteers like that, but I don't know how much the volunteers are willing to do. My opinion is the volunteers maybe want to pick up trash, pick up dog crap, things like that. I don't think we can't give them town equipment to go out and mow lawns and things like that. Public Works budget was approved as recommended at 662,621. There was a change in the transfer station. I met with Stu Axelrod last Friday. There's a 3% increase in the contract price with Pine Tree Waste, which is still a lot less than the other providers that are out there. The reason I know that is one of the providers made a mistake of giving me his proposal and showing me the bottom line, and I said, you can't do that. You gotta take that back, and if you want to bid, you're gonna have to give me a different number. But it was considerably lower, so rather than the $6,000 a month for Pine Tree Waste, it'll be $6,180 a month this year. That $6,180 a month and the well testing and consultation will bring us to $79,000, which is a $25 increase over last year because we're not doing the waste disposal this year, the household hazardous waste, so it was a wash.
So what's that bottom line number for the transfer station? 8950.
80,950, yes.
Okay, because I thought that's what I put that they had approved.
Yep. And it went from, it was 72,000 at 3% to that, and that was the increase. Let me just give you that number. So instead of $6,000 a month, which is 72,000, it's 1.03 more than that. So it'll be 74,160 to operate the transfer station this year, just for the operation of the station.
Last year's budget was $80,925, right?
Yes, it was.
So, or $50, $25 more than last year's budget.
General assistance, there was no changes. Budget board recommended 79,514. Recreation, the budget board tabled because of the communications line, which includes the MyRec system that is turning out to be a real nightmare right now. We've had them go through several different reprogramming, software reprogramming for the way the department operates. I don't believe that MyRec is going to work. It's going to make more work for Jen and her department. The fee collections, if people want to pay with credit card, they'll be first priority all the time in all of the programs. Programs that sell out and people want to pay cash, they may register on Monday. There's no way in the system to definitely say that they paid to hold that spot. So if they only come to town hall on Wednesday to pay cash, they may have lost that spot that they registered for on Monday. And so they weren't able, and they haven't yet been able to rectify that problem in MyRec. So if they can do that, it's a yearly fee, so we would begin March, April, May, and it would go for a year. If they're unable to rectify that, Jen won't spend that money. And at town meeting, I will request to reduce the amount for the recreation department by $5,000 unless we're able to find another program that operates in the manner that Jen needs it to.
So how much did we have to buy that software, or do we just do a yearly fee?
The majority of the cost is an annual maintenance fee. I think it was $3,500 for annual maintenance and licensing and all that, and the additional $1,500 was to buy in. That $1,500 cost was a one-time cost. The rest of the costs are recurring. And thus far, they haven't been able to show us or show Jen how it's going to help.
Is that part of the $6,800?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So if it's a $1,500 one-time cost, which we paid last year.
Well, we haven't paid it yet because they haven't shown us a product that we can use. So we don't pay until we accept what they've developed.
Okay,
But yes,
but why is the, never mind.
yeah, that should be reduced by $1,500.
It's kind of where I was going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So since they don't have that definite figure, they tabled this article.
Yeah. And so they want to have an answer by their next meeting, and I'm going to try to recommend to them that we do like we did with Public Works. Last year, there was an article where I had to request that they reduce the appropriation, and unless she can find another program. When she's on vacation this week, when she comes back, that's what we're going to try to figure out, is if there's another program out there that's going to do what we want it to do. Because subsequent to the initial conversations, we also found out there's fees that go directly to MyRec for using and purchasing online that are passed on to the users. There's fees that we didn't know were associated with the program. And they were trying to convince us to waive all fees, just absorb the fees. And board's direction to me in credit cards at town hall and any other matter is we're not subsidizing people that are using credit cards. And so that was another problem. It's been one issue after another with MyRec.
Isn't this something that is used? It seems to me, I remember Jen saying that, local areas all use it.
Kennebunk uses it.
Do they have the same issue?
They don't, because of the way, I believe Kennebunk, it's before and after are combined together, and you can register for before and after care, but it's not separated. I would like to have her explain that to you at the next meeting she's able to attend, because I don't want to get it wrong. But yes, they're using it. The fee structure in Kennebunk isn't an issue because Kennebunk has businesses that fund the programs, so they just absorb the costs and they make sure that the sponsorship fees of that website are covering the costs of the fees to the users. You know what I'm saying? If you use a credit card, it's a $3 fee. They make sure that whoever is paying for subscriptions on that website is covering those costs. Well, we haven't even got to the point yet where we can operate to see what the costs are going to be before we can go out and try to find a sponsor that would be willing to have advertising on the MyRec page to be able to cover those costs. It turned into a lot of, Jen would have to log in at 9 o'clock on Thursday night, turn everything off, make sure people can't register, make sure people who aren't registered make it into town hall by Friday morning, and there was going to be a lot more back-end work on her part that she didn't see coming.
So why didn't we see that before we?
I thought we asked all the questions we needed to ask, and they say, MyRec is saying it's because of the specific programs that we offer and the manner in which we offer them. We require prepayment or payment at time of registration, deadlines by Thursday, and they said that you'd have a better chance of the program being successful if you required people to pay online with a credit card. Jen wasn't comfortable doing that because there's people that want to pay cash, there's people that don't know until Thursday morning how many days they're going to use it. Some people would rather pay with a check. Some people aren't comfortable using the online registration product at all. And so there were a whole host of issues that came up after we had the initial conversations where everything sounded rosy, where it turned out to be a little bit more work than we thought and not quite as user-friendly.
It kind of sounds like we're trying to reinvent the wheel here. I mean, there's already a system in place. Maybe it's time to get on board with the system like everybody else around is.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's the right way to go, but, other people are using it, they're not having issues. I understand the sponsorship part of it, or the fees being paid, but Well, maybe it's a reluctance on our part, we ought to come on board with what everybody else is doing.
We're gonna have Jen.
I will have Jen address that when she gets back.
Well, let's ask other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that was general assistance recreation, they didn't cover. Reserves and debt, they stopped. They stopped because the conversation started about the Kennebunk Free Library, and nobody seemed to wanna discuss that at the time. It was 9 o'clock, they agreed, we're almost done, let's go through reserves and debt, and then they jumped right to the free library and didn't want to talk about it anymore. So, I can report to you that 852 cards were issued at the library. They don't break it down into how many families those cards entail. They don't break it down into how many times those cards have been used. It's just 852 cards have been issued. And then there were two other changes here. There's a request from the Chamber of Commerce. I put it on here. Okay, I didn't change the name right. Where you see library user scholarship account, there's a $2,000 amount there.
Yeah.
That is the request from the Kennebunk, Port Arundel Chamber of Commerce. We are the only, well, no, we are not. Kennebunk, Port, and Arundel do not fund the chamber at this point in time. They felt that it's been a few years and they were comfortable asking if the Board of Selectmen were comfortable funding them at the level of $2,000. That would be utilized to promote economic development in Arundel. They would work with the Economic Development Committee in programs as we start moving forward, and to promote businesses here in town, which
What's the organization?
Kennebunk and Port Arundel Chamber of Commerce. And then there was realized savings in police protection because the inhabitants of the town of Arundel just paid the last lease payment for this cruiser that we have. Spoke to Troy, spoke to Chief King, spoke to Major Brand. There's only 50,000 miles on that cruiser. I think we've probably got another 2 or 3 years that we can get out of that car. No major issues. They said that I think he said it was a Waterbury's car that's falling apart, and his is like a Cadillac compared to that. Troy's more than happy with his cruiser. He'd like to have an SUV at some point in time, which some departments are moving to. But right now, that's the newest vehicle in our fleet. So I'd say we're in good shape by keeping that cruiser another year or two at least. So I reduced that 92,000 by the 7,500. That was the lease payment.
How long have we had that now?
This is our third payment, so 3 years.
How
So we
many,
get 50,000 a month.
50,000.
how many users of the library, did you say?
852
852.
cards.
852 cards.
With the chamber company $2,000, is that just pulling it out of the air, or is there some basis to
I think that's what Kennebunk gives, and that's what they requested from Kennebunk Port last year. The board in Kennebunk Port last year was in favor of it on the floor at town meeting. Somebody requested appropriation of $0. I think that might be the going figure in towns our size, or maybe it's just what they're asking of the towns in this chamber. But it was $2,000 they were requesting. And so if there's any questions or any comments or concerns, I don't know how thoroughly you want to go through the budget at this point. I wanted to make you aware of where the budget board was at. And I didn't think we'd have this much time at this meeting, maybe how that happened. So we can have further discussion, or this will definitely be on the next agenda, and depending how long the special town meeting and the rest of that goes, and then the first meeting in April, I'd like to have an in-depth discussion and possibly come to an agreement on the 2014-15 budget.
When's their next meeting, budget board?
Budget board's next meeting is tentatively scheduled for the 26th, because the chair is out of town this week. And the 19th is the business after hours at Weir's, and I said I had already committed to going to that, so I can't be at the budget board meeting on the 19th, so the 26th will be next. And I also included in your packet the, I believe actually I put on the table the undesignated fund, the capital reserve fund balances for your information. which is something else that will come up in the next meeting, or as we start discussing warrant articles, is whether or not it's the will of the board to try to market for sale the Medora property that we decided not to use for town hall, and potentially Mr. Roberge's property, if he doesn't come through with a request for a quick claim to get his property back on Route 1. That's one of the foreclosed properties we have.
Remember, we have no debt.
How about the piece down by the railroad tracks?
Railroad Park. We have a piece there, yes? What about it? Do you want to sell it?
Well, that's what
I-
actually,
We have tried.
Yeah, I know, nobody wanted it, but the thing is, the other night when we were down at the chamber after hours, down at the reuse place there for Habitat for Humanity,
Yeah.
they are looking for land because they can't find land. So we can't give away a piece of land, but we could put it up for sale again.
I don't think that meets any setbacks for any kind of,
No, it has a buildable lot.
Yeah, it's a 2 or 3 acre parcel. It's triangle shaped, but I think Tad had told me that.
There's like one spot, and you're within like a few feet of either side, and it can't be a big house.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of
Because I remember we checked into that before we
Yeah,
put it up for sale before.
Yeah,
Let me look into that again.
yeah, because if that's something that, you know, Habitat had someone willing to make an offer on that house, even if it was a low offer.
What would they want it for though?
What house?
Put a house?
One house,
Yeah.
Habitat for Humanity's house.
Yeah,
Wow.
I can definitely look into that railroad part. And then we also have 2 lots on Riverline, I believe, but they're
those you can't.
marsh lots, so
Yeah,
you wouldn't be
yeah.
building anything there.
Yeah.
It's wetlands.
Yeah.
So
I think we ought to wait till, let the budget board complete
Okay.
its job, right? And this is our budget right now. They're coming back with their comments on finish, and then we can go from there, see if we can get it done.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for that then.
Those library users, by the way, 15,000 with 852 cards amounts to $17.61 per person, or a card,
Okay. Their math is it's $375 per capita.
yeah.
Okay, next item is discuss the direction we want to take on the TIF options for the Arundel seasonal cottages.
All right, this one's kind of taking the back seat here for a little while as they were getting their application together and just giving, back and forth between ownership and between the assessed values and things like that. We haven't really had an in-depth discussion as to the board's feelings on the structure of this TIF. I gave you the application package, but the last 2 pages of that application package reflect a model that I believe Tom may have brought it up at a previous meeting, that I recommended to Jim Denises that he run these numbers. Model number 1 is 100% captured value based on 100% incremental value captured within the district for 25 years. 50% of the captured revenue going to the developer project and 50% to the municipal development account. What that does is that gives us $10 million for the town in our economic development revenue account. Speaking to the Kennebunk Sewer District, they won't be able to accept our waste for between 5 to 8 years, which is within the time frame of when this build-out would happen. But for $10 million, we could do a lot more than sewer and water, and I don't know exactly what else we would do. I don't know if the town wants to build a municipal industrial park or a business park, or there's a lot of different options. But Model 2 that I had proposed to Jim, in which I think if the board is interested in getting this TIF passed, we'll have that conversation in a minute. But Model 2 gives the same amount back to the developer, puts 25% into our business project account, which would give, the municipal project account, which would give us $5.2 million to do infrastructure improvements along Route 1 in areas in town that are covered. And then it would also refund each year 25% back to the general fund. So it would be giving, in the 25-year TIF, rather than 10 million going to the business project account and 10 million going into our economic development account, what that would do, it would give 10 million to the developer, 5 million to our infrastructure projects, and it would give $5 million back to the general fund. So it would actually be like we were receiving a quarter of the tax revenue from that district would be going back to the general fund to reduce the mill rate. I think that's more palatable in Arundel if the board is interested in moving forward and is interested in getting this passed. I think going with a straight 100%, 50% to the developer, 50% to our infrastructure projects, for a total of $10 million that, right now, I can't justify spending $10 million in the district reasonably and thinking that it's going to get passed through the town. The comments that I've heard haven't all been accepting of this TIF coming through. I think it would temper the blow and it would be a goodwill gesture because it is tax revenue to be actually putting some of that into the general fund. That's my opinion. I welcome hearing from you because I'm not sure if the board is interested in capturing 75% of the value and giving that much of it to the developer. I can say that I have I'm fairly comfortable with the fact that if this TIF does not happen in the manner that it's proposed, there is a chance it won't go through. I know they have a lot invested, but I don't know how willing their investors are to invest in a project where they're not getting anything back. It's not my job to sell this TIF, it's just my job to tell you what I think that the pulse of what's going on out there is. So that means if the TIF fails and nothing happens in that district for a little while, I think we'll be looking at the $417,000 worth of valuation that we have out there. They can do the work, it's not an ideal piece of property, and there's a lot of site development to be done there. So Dan, you know much better than I do, because you were on the planning board.
Development to be, we've walked that property time and time again.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm looking to see if the board is in favor of moving forward with the TIF, the length of the term of the TIF, and the different options. I think that the easiest option to sell and the most responsible option for the taxpayer of Arundel is to go with the 75-25-25 model, where some of that money is going back into the general fund. As I said, Mike Boldick over at the sewer district, they won't be ready for us for another 5 to 10 years, is what the outlook was. And it would take that long to start appreciating enough accruing enough funds to be able to bond a project to do anyway. I'm still of the opinion that through this TIF process, we're not going to bond more than we can pay for through the TIF revenue. It doesn't make any sense for the town, and that's the easiest way to get caught in the, too overly enthusiastic TIF game.
From a sewer district perspective, I mean, obviously there are upgrades that need to be done there, which that's gonna be millions of dollars. And then to run the, so, I mean, is $5 million enough for that?
The 1.6 miles of sewer line that would be required to get to the treatment plant and sewer all of Route 1. Woodard and Curran gave us some pro bono engineering work, and it was approximately $1.6 million to extend that sewer line. Impact fees could be assessed by the sewer district to help defray some of the costs of their expansion. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 2.0 to 3.6 million. The numbers went up a little bit since the last meeting, and those are going to grow, exponentially every year until we actually, start the project. Some of these things that we put in here, from the conversation we had, in my opinion, are pie in the sky. I know now what the selectmen, or certain individuals, we actually took it out, so streetlights are gone. Because we heard loud and clear that streetlights weren't necessarily the answer. A Route 1 sidewalk, we can prioritize these items and make them fit. As long as they're in this program, we can make them fit into the funds that we receive. I'm not going to tell you that I think that their 5 phases are going to be complete as quickly as they think they are. That's kind of hit or miss. It's hard to tell. And so we can't anticipate we're gonna get a lot more revenue and then end up in the ballpark of, half of what we thought we were gonna get. But the sanitary sewer, according to Woodard and Kern, was 2 to 3.6 million. And
Plus,
that-
we're gonna have to end up probably, some cost to them to help upgrade their system.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
that was my first
Yeah.
part of my statement.
We're gonna
You
have
know,
to.
they're not gonna pay, I mean, they were talking, at that meeting that we went to, they were talking about a
$23.5 million.
$23.5 million upgrade just to keep what they're doing today.
Yeah.
And then to bring us on board, that's gonna be even more.
And that's another thing that Woodard and Kern is doing pro bono on our behalf is a feasibility study to see what they think the sewer district could actually capture along Route 1 in Arundel to see what kind of influx of biologic organic demand they'd be looking at to see how much bigger they have to expand for us. Mike did say something that was kind of, I was a little enthusiastic after he said it, is that the sewer district has to pay to go out to West Kennebunk. Arundel's gonna pay for the lines to come through Arundel, so it might be more advantageous for them to extend in our direction than it is to extend in West Kennebunk.
But why 25 years? Why,
Why
I know
25?
that was what they asked for, right?
Yeah, that's what they asked for. They gave us a laundry list of costs associated with the project, and I believe they were in the $9 to $10 million ballpark after the upgrades to Route 1, after all the road infrastructure, the blasting, the water lines, because they're gonna have hydrants in there, and it's gonna be on Kennebunk Port, Wells Water, you name it. That was infrastructure costs that they anticipated they were going to need to build out the project. Not including the houses, the driveways, things like that, just the roads and the infrastructure was gonna be in that ballpark. And Joe was very honest with us and said that his developers were looking for a better return on their investment, and that's why they were asking the town for a TIF. But I'm not comfortable enough to guess whether or not the project would go without a TIF. That's just, I don't have that comfort level. I've asked the question to Joe, and Kelly, don't blame him, he doesn't want to answer it. But I know that they do have a considerable amount of capital into this project as we speak. They spent $100,000 on the booster station for the water district, and I can't imagine what they have into engineering.
Engineering is the majority of their costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they've done nothing else there except for that booster and engineering.
Yeah.
But they spent a lot of money because they got some beautiful plans, and they've done a lot of work, a lot of revisions back and forth on that, so.
But I can see if I was invested in that, and knowing what they've got to have for their infrastructure before they build their first house in there.
Yeah.
I just think that it would be the TIF would benefit the town. And, I mean, it's gonna benefit them, but I think it's gonna benefit us, because if they don't have the TIF, it could very well be, if that project has been sitting there how many years now?
It will be on its second renewal of planning board approval,
Yeah,
so.
so it could end up losing their financing, losing their support, and they going back to square one, so.
I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I know I'm in the ballpark, I believe that Joe and Rick had said initially that before they could even build house number 1 in there, they would be at $4 million worth of investment because of and it's kind of a bass-ackwards way we're going about this TIF to get sewer, because they're building subsurface wastewater systems there that are state-of-the-art and costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars to put in, but they have not broached the subject of, we'd like to have sewer there before we start, because they know it's a non-starter, we can't afford to do that as a town. So, and they're fine with, their team is the one that's proposed this, they completely understand that that's the direction we're heading, but they're still willing to move forward in the manner that they've.
And of the two models, you're right, I like Model 2 better, because it is putting something back into.
For some reason, I don't have this Model 2.
Oh, okay, here you go, Tom. This is, what I had to do was just run a 25% that would go into the undesignated, go into the general fund. Because that avoids, that, we would be penalized on those like they are regular tax dollars, but in speaking with the DECD and with Shanna, it's a lot harder to pull those funds out after the fact and use them for general fund revenues than it is to just do it up front and anticipate using them for that purpose.
Both of these models, the developer's getting something close to 10 million. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But didn't they say they wanted 7 when we first talked about this?
No, I thought initially it was,
That was the number, I remember. They were going forward unless they got $7 million.
7.5 or something like that.
I don't remember 9 or 10.
there's a possibility that the valuations had changed. Let me ask Jim that, because that's the last version he sent me. Let me check the first version and see what that said. 7.5 was
I
what
tried
they
to
were.
find it today, but I couldn't. So.
Okay, I have that back at the shop. I can get that for you, no problem.
So with the sewer stuff,
Yeah.
normally when they put in a sewer line, anybody that's in line has got to tap in.
Yes.
So they would have to tap into the sewer after spending all of this money.
Once your system fails, the way most ordinances are written is if you're within 1,000 feet of the sewer line and your subsurface system fails, you can't replace it with a new system, you have to tie in. And that's where the impact fees come in to play. That's where if 25 years down the road, Arundel Seasonal Cottages leach bed craps out, they've got to tie into the sewer.
They may want to, they were doing it in phases anyway, so
Right.
they may want to.
Yeah, but their first phase incorporates a huge septic.
I know, but they may get more life out of it if it less
Yeah.
homes are using it.
That was 7.3 million.
Yeah.
The initial was 7.3, Jason?
Yeah.
I will bring that to their attention for sure. Do the rest of you, is anybody else in favor of that model where it goes to the general fund, or are we looking to put it all into the development district?
So you're saying that 25% that goes to the general fund isn't sheltered from county
Right.
tax, school?
None of those.
None of those things?
Nope, none of those sheltering provisions apply.
Mm.
But in my opinion, it's a means to, from what I see in Arundel, what's in it for me is coming, and we can do it 100% and say you're getting economic development and infrastructure to the tune of $10 million, or we can say you're getting $5 million of infrastructure and you're getting money into the general fund. Because 25 years is it's a considerable long time.
No, and I think most residents, if they, they feel that they could help our tax situation, certainly. I mean, that was one of the things that was pushed with this, is, I think it was like $15 million a year, and geez, big savings on our taxes, so.
Yeah. Then that's
What are the criticisms or concerns that you've heard?
length of time. Why are we going for 25 years is one that I've heard. Whenever somebody asks me why do we need to do this, my argument, instinctively is 400,000 versus $56 million. I mean, if they're not willing to do the project without the TIF, we're losing out on 262 homes that aren't putting any kids into the school system and the economic benefits to all the businesses in town. The majority of what I hear is why they want so long. You hear why are we giving money to developers, things like that. I can argue that one away. Why so long? I said that was the amount of financing they needed to make this project happen. But if it was initially 7.3, I'm gonna.
Well, you know why, the initial one we got was a 20-year TIF. That make
That's what I was gonna say, it's 20 years.
Yeah, 20 year.
But yeah, if you add up those numbers, that's another $1 million or $3 million.
Yep.
So they stretched it another 5.
Right. And put another $2 million in the pot.
Right.
So what would happen if we went back and said 20 years?
I can most certainly do that. That's the kind of direction I'm looking to.
Yeah.
Because they're in no rush. They make us think they're in a rush, but the reason we had to move the CMP TIF as quickly as we did, because the deadline is March 28th. We needed to get that in. There's going to be no work done. Original assessed value on this property is going to be March 31st, 2014, no matter what we do. So I don't want to lag it for 18 months like we can, but we're not under the gun to get another special town meeting to get this done. So I have time to go back and forth with them and have them justify to me why what, will they do a 20-year, and what other concessions they're willing to give. I've requested the market study to see exactly what kind of residents they think they're going to get in there, how they think they're gonna sell it, that kind of stuff, to try to get I just wanna feel a little bit more comfortable with the fact that this project will go to full bill and come to fruition in the way they're telling us it will.
Jason, what you looking at, the first 5 years, nothing to the community, both trying to?
Yeah, that one hadn't changed.
And are we still at the same dollar amount? We're still at the same 10 million?
For the 20-year?
Yeah.
No,
It's less, right? It's like,
it's 7.8.
Yeah.
yeah.
They take a much more substantial hit than we do, obviously, in the 20-year. And they're losing $5 million, we're only losing $1.5 million. You know. Maybe that's why they stretched it.
Yeah.
Sure.
The 20-year seems like it would put a little bit more pressure on their end to get the project complete.
Right, because whatever they're lagging behind at the end of that 20 years, they're losing a considerable amount of revenue.
Right.
You know, if they only build out to 60 million in 20 years, then they're gonna wanna get it done and build it out completely.
So you want to know from us whether we're
Well,
in favor of moving forward with this?
Yeah,
and,
which I believe that was the direction initially, is that's why we're here.
And you've already heard some comments, I think, about if we do, what we might be looking for by way of
Yep.
changes and modifications.
Yeah, and what I can have Jim do is run those numbers, and we can have a conversation with the entire team and say, you know, we need to look at acceptance by the town and what is more palatable. You know, what is the, not the minimum, but where are you guys comfortable at coming in less than 25 years, coming in and gives different scenarios? And does anybody have, and I don't have a major concern because the initial upfront costs are huge, do any members have an issue with that 5-year period where the town doesn't get anything back?
I don't like it, but you gotta look down the road.
Yeah, and no, I mean, that's,
And that 5 years, they're going to be putting in a lot of value
Yeah.
in that property.
yeah, and that's kind of why I asked that question, because somebody on the board says something, it's coming at town meeting, so we've got to, you know, anticipate that question. And that was one of the other questions that came to me, is why 5 years with nothing to the town? And I said, you know, they've got, I think they said $4 million, if I'm not mistaken, that it was going to cost before they could even sell house number 1 and have it occupied.
Anybody walks that property, they'll see why.
Yeah,
That first phase one there, they're gonna be putting like a building, there's a lot of blasting that has to get done to level that,
And people have to understand, we're still going to get tax dollars.
Absolutely.
This is just the increased value associated with what they do. So we're still going to get.
Is this a TIF?
Still gonna get what we're getting right now.
Yeah.
Or
Is this
more,
and
depending on
more,
what the
because
bill
the-
rate is.
Yeah, value is
Right.
Is this an in-stone TIF chart that is,
The calculation chart, yes.
that's something that automatically spits out when the TIF? So you couldn't take year 25, say, we'll give you year 25, we want year 25 on year 1 and 2 broken in half.
You can do anything in breakdowns. You can break it out any way you want. The chart itself will calculate these spreadsheets. They have them for every scenario you can imagine. So if you wanted to say, yeah, you can do anything, you can say.
So give us money up front.
Yep,
Let's say you do first the phase and you realize you can't sell 3 units,
yep.
you have to walk away from your project. At least we've got revenue.
Oh, good point.
so you're saying like grab.
Well, like Tom made a good point, like after year 10 or whatever, you're gonna start accruing, let's say it does go fruition, you're gonna start accruing increased tax revenue anyway, if they are selling like hotcakes.
Right, yep.
So if we took some money from the back end of it and dumped it into the front, like we'll give you year 25, we won't take any revenue on year 25, but we want the $750,000 broken on year 1 and 2. You know?
Yeah.
So give us $375,000.
Yeah, I can definitely bring that up to them. It's a good idea, actually, Jason, because, and you said it
It
right
covers
there,
us,
if it
yeah.
doesn't, if it only makes it to phase 1 and they sell 3 units, then we got nothing.
Right, yeah, you have no revenue coming in.
Yeah. But then at that point, we vote to eliminate the TIF. There's 4 units there that we're now fully taxing, but.
Right, and we have some money
Go for it.
We can eliminate the TIF
Yeah, if they, you know,
if they don't build out?
they build 15 units and it falls flat, we can vote to discontinue the TIF district. They just did that with Matson Developers at the mill in Saco. They just dissolved that TIF and eliminated that one. So yes, we could do that if it's not meeting break points and nothing's happening.
And then we tax what's there,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, 100%.
100%,
Nothing,
and nothing back.
nothing
Yeah.
else.
Any other concerns or issues I can bring to their attention that you can think of off the top of your head? You're welcome to email these things to me anytime, ideas, thoughts that come across.
I take it everybody's in favor of moving forward with this on some basis, at least exploring this.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it seems to me that, you know, it could be of great benefit,
Yeah.
no matter how we structure
It's
this
almost a
ultimately.
no-brainer, but
Um,
gotta do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good benefit to the town. I didn't realize we could get out of it at some point if we needed to. That makes it even
That's,
more
it's only,
appealing, I
it's
think.
only if they, I mean, if they continue to do their bill,
Yeah,
we
we
can't
say,
get
yeah.
out of it, but.
Yeah.
But if
all of
they
a sudden
stop
they
building,
right.
Yeah,
then we have the ability, and I'll have to check with Shanna on that. I'll get her to give me a legal interpretation of at what point, can we put language in here where if they go 2 years without building, or they go 3 years without building, or if they stop at phase 1, see if there's some kind of language we can put into the TIF that would address that specifically.
And we just have to make sure if we're asked any questions about it, that we can direct those questions to Todd so that we can get,
Yes.
the Arundel taxpayer can get the correct information.
If you get feedback or questions on the street, people are send them to me so that I can try to, or send me the questions or the people, and I can
Yeah,
try to.
because we need to make sure that they're educated as to what it is,
Yeah.
how it works.
And this TIF, it's my, if we move forward with this, they can accept everything we discussed. I would take this to a full town meeting vote. I wouldn't want to have a special town meeting on this. I think it would be what we could advertise it well, it might get us a little more turnout at town meeting, but I think it's a good time to vet that question would be at a full-blown town meeting, especially with something of this nature.
Does this include the retail space out front, or is that separate?
That
It does include it, right?
You know, $69 million isn't nothing to shake a stick at, really. I mean, it takes a while to realize that full valuation, and of course, at the end of the TIF, we get not technically don't get penalized, but we get, all of that burden gets shifted back to the town, but it's revenue we didn't have before, and it could be a very good thing for the area. You know, the Chamber of Commerce members who know about it were pretty excited to hear about it. You know, businesses think that they'll get some business out of this. Speaking to John Carter, the town manager in Wells, theirs are seasonal as well, but the people are coming in, they register their vehicles at town hall, they spend money in the town. So there's other benefits other than just the tax valuation.
I guess on the other side of the link, I mean, we delay the shift back to us
Yeah.
as well, I mean. that's
Right, yeah,
the
if you go 20 years, it's shifted back to us.
After 20 rather than 25, so, I mean, that's taken into consideration as well, although I think 20 is, they only need 7 million.
Yeah, 20 is.
What happened in, when was that, back in August or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and that might have just been added in an interim version that neither one of us picked up on. But yeah, I will certainly bring that to Jim's attention tomorrow morning. All right.
Okay.
There's no other major questions or
Anybody
concerns.
complaining about their name being used?
I haven't heard yet. I haven't talked to the new manager about that yet. I complain every time I see them.
The Arundel Kennebunk Court
Oh,
Cottage Preserve.
Boy.
When I speak to them, I never add Kennebunk Court in there. So
Dan, Didn't the
Planning
planning
board.
board push them on Arundel and not
It
Kenmore?
was Arundel seasonal cottages, and then they came back and we got some documents, and it was, Arundel was taken completely off, and we went nuts. You know, we're like, wait a minute here, because, you know, I mean, Kennebunkport is a very marketable name, so, you know, we went back and forth with them, and Joe at the time said, you know, yeah, we'll put Arundel back in, but.
Planning board wouldn't reapprove it with the
No.
new name.
No.
It says no.
No, because, you know, just like the boat place. You know.
If we're using Kenny as town clerk, just to let the town manager know, we're not gonna be paying them any money for
Yeah,
using that
yeah.
name.
Surprised I haven't got a call from old school yet, as a matter of fact. That's that comment.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
any more direction from us on that?
I think I'm in good shape.
Okay. Okay, so review and sign the payable warrants.
Someone,
Second.
All in favor? Any other business, folks?
May I?
You sure?
The Chamber of Commerce, I probably should add this as an agenda item next month, next meeting. The Chamber of Commerce is having a raffle to sell a Harley Davidson. Does the board have any issues with me selling tickets from Town Hall for that raffle?
How you gonna do that?
People
Have
ask
them out
me,
there?
no, people will ask, they'll just know that I have them. I'm not gonna advertise it all throughout Town Hall, but people will know if I have them, to stop by Town Hall, they can get them.
Guess I'm not in trouble with that as long as we're not pushing it on people.
Nope, not pushing it on anybody.
So they'd have to come in and ask for it.
Yes, I'm not gonna plaster it all over the place.
but it'll be a case of on the Chamber's website, when they advertise, tickets are available at
Yeah.
this place, this place, this place, and the tickets will be available at the Arundel Town Hall.
Yeah.
So if someone's interested, they,
2014 denim black street glide, $20 a ticket, 6 for 100.
So, is it just you personally, or if somebody comes in, the girls can go be able to?
No, because I'm a board member on the chamber, so the board member has to sell the tickets.
Right, so to Velma's point, it just can't say, you
No,
know,
Sim's not gonna be selling them, and,
town manager or whatever.
yeah, no.
Would that come with a?
Motor bicycles,
Might be able to work something out, Phil. We'll give you a Sportster and a trailer. But yeah, tickets will be on sale, I believe, starting at the business after hours. See me for tickets.
yeah,
Make a motion, we adjourn?
second.
Second.
All in favor?